Euphemia Dorcas had only wandered from the fete because her slippers were pinching, and her mother's voice had begun to sound like a fork scraping a porcelain plate. She wanted a breath of quiet, 3 minutes, perhaps 5, before returning to the crowd of distant cousins, over-sugared lemonade, and gentlemen who bowed to her without ever meeting her eyes. She was not expecting to find a man in the estate's pond, and certainly not a naked one. She froze halfway down the stone path, her breath halting in her chest. At first she thought the moonlit water was playing tricks on her, then the surface rippled, and a tall figure rose from it, shoulders, chest, every inch of him sculpted and glistening like a Greek statue someone had shoved carelessly into a cold English night. Euphemia slapped a hand to her mouth to stop the sound that tried to escape. The man turned. Their eyes met. For a heartbeat, both of them were perfectly still. Then he smiled. Not kindly, not politely. A slow, amused, unbearably confident smile that told her he knew exactly how scandalous this was. "My lady," he drawled, water rolling down his jaw in a way absolutely no gentleman had the right to look. "Forgive me, I didn't realize I had an audience." Euphemia spun around so quickly she nearly tripped over her hem. I beg your pardon. I didn't—" Behind her, his voice warmed with wicked amusement. "Is this the first time you've seen a man unclothed?" Heat exploded across her cheeks. "I have seen statues." "Oh," he said, laughter in his voice. "But statues don't look back, do they?" She gasped, mortified, gripping her skirt and attempting to walk. No, flee back to the fete. But he spoke again, low and teasing. "If you run that fast, my lady, you'll fall." "Then I shall fall," she snapped over her shoulder, refusing to look at him. He stepped onto the bank. She heard the shift of water, the quiet thud of his bare feet on grass. She walked faster. "Do you make a habit," he asked, voice closer now, "of appearing when a man is at his most unguarded?" "I was not looking for you, sir," she sputtered, horrified. A soft laugh. "Pity." She almost tripped again. He called after her, not unkindly. Teasing, yes, but with a strange, warm curiosity beneath it. "At least tell me your name, so I may know the lady who caught me in such an unpresentable state." "You may know nothing," she said, mortification and fury swallowing her whole. "Not my name, not my face, not my voice. Forget me entirely." "Impossible," he murmured. The word slipped through the darkness and straight into her bones. She didn't understand why her stomach tightened at the sound of it. She refused to look back. He called out once more, tone softer now, almost thoughtful. "My lady." She stopped. Her heartbeat stuttered. He continued, "It seems fate likes to play tricks. Remember tonight." "I shall do no such thing," she said, determined. "Ah," he replied gently, "but I will." Her breath caught. She hurried away before another scandalous sentence could leave his mouth. She never learned his name. Not that night. Not when her heart was trembling. Not when her dignity was dangling by a thread. But later, much later, she would remember that voice, that smile, that impossible teasing warmth. And she would curse herself for not realizing the truth. She had just spoken to the man she was destined to marry. Though tonight she only knew him as the naked stranger in the pond. Euphemia returned to the fete with her cheeks still burning, her steps stiff with indignation and the leftover humiliation of the pond. Her mother, Lady Verena Dorcas, swooped toward her the instant she appeared, waving her fan as if drowning in excitement. "Where have you been? Your hair is in disarray. Did you run? Oh, never mind. Come quickly. The Duke has arrived." Euphemia froze. "The Duke?" "Yes, the new Duke of St. John. Everyone is gathering for his formal introduction. Do stand up straight, darling." Euphemia's stomach twisted sharply. They walked toward the center of the garden where lanterns glowed like stars. A cluster of guests parted, and Euphemia caught her first glimpse of him. Fully dressed, tall, composed. dark hair neatly combed, eyes scanning the crowd with quiet command. Her breath left her entirely. It was him, the man from the pond, the man who smirked at her under moonlight, the man who called after her, unbothered by his own indecency. Now a duke, a recently inherited one, judging by the whispering guests. A man with power, a man with a name that carried weight, and she had insulted him, run from him, seen him bare and unashamed. Her face burned, and for a sickening heartbeat she prayed he would not notice her, that he would never look her way, that he would forget. His gaze passed over her, briefly, barely, but enough to steal her breath. Her father, Viscount Baron Dorcas, appeared at her side with stellar timing. "Walk with me," he said quietly, his tone leaving no room for protest. Her legs felt numb as she followed him to the far edge of the garden, away from the music and chatter. He exhaled, hands clasped behind his back. "Euphemia," he began gently, "a matter has been settled." Her stomach sank. Her father was not a dramatic man. When he used words like settled, something irreversible always followed. "You are to marry," he continued, "Dufton St. John, the new Duke of St. John." Her lungs closed. She looked back toward the crowd, toward the man standing calmly among admirers, unaware his future was walking in circles, trying not to faint. "No," she whispered. "No, Papa, you cannot mean—" "Euphemia," he said softly. "This arrangement was discussed months ago. His mother and I agreed it was a favorable match. You were not told yet because we awaited his father's formal passing of the title. So it had been planned, long before the pond, long before today, long before she'd seen him in the water and wished him to the depths. She was the last to know, and now she knew everything." Her heart sank, heavy and cold. "It is decided," her father said gently. "Our families are aligned. The Duke honors the agreement fully." She felt something collapse inside her. "Papa, I cannot marry him." "You can," he murmured. "And you will." "Oh, Papa." Her voice cracked. "You do not understand." But he did. His eyes were warm with sympathy, but the decision was immovable. Iron in velvet. He placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "My girl, I know you fear a life not chosen, but the world does not always give us what we wish. Sometimes it gives us what is necessary." She looked away so he wouldn't see her tears. "The Duke is steady," her father continued, "capable, respected, and you will not be unhappy, Euphemia. I swear it." She shook her head, but the words were already binding her fate. A marriage. To a man she had seen naked. To a man who had teased her, unsettled her, undone her in a single moment. Her father left her to collect herself. Euphemia pressed a trembling hand to her stomach. She felt twist painfully. Her future had been decided long before she fell into that cursed pond path. A duchess, a wife, to him. She could barely breathe. She whispered into the night, voice breaking, "I will not marry a man who unsettles me so." But the truth, the one she dared not admit, curled like heat under her ribs. She was unsettled because something about him felt dangerous, and even worse. Something about him felt inevitable. That night, Euphemia lay in her bed staring at the canopy overhead, feeling the edges of her world press inward. Her mother hummed through the house in restless excitement, already planning gowns and menus and guest lists. Her father spoke with quiet pride to the steward about dowries and estates. And Euphemia, she felt as though she were being swept toward a life she had never agreed to live. A duke, a stranger, a man she had already seen in the most mortifying circumstance imaginable. She kept seeing him rise from the pond, the water sliding down his skin, the amused curve of his mouth, the warmth in his voice when he said "my lady" as if he knew her. She pressed a hand over her heart. It still beat too quickly. She could not be his duchess, not when she already felt out of breath merely thinking about him. Her mother burst into her room without knocking, as she often did. "Darling, you must wear something spectacular tomorrow. The Duke is attending the Masquerade ball. Everyone important will be there. Everyone. Do not slouch. Look pleased. Smile." Euphemia sat up slowly. "Masquerade?" "Yes, darling. Masks, mystery, music. You'll look heavenly." Euphemia swallowed. A masquerade. A room full of masks. A room full of shadows. A room where no one would know her name. Her heart thudded painfully. Her mother prattled on about fabrics and feathers, but Euphemia heard nothing. Her mind spun like thread slipping from its spool. If she were masked? If she behaved recklessly? If someone saw her kiss a stranger in the dark? The Duke would withdraw the marriage offer at once. Perhaps even feel insulted. Perhaps even disgusted. A kiss ruined reputations faster than any rumor could. Faster than any whispered secret. Faster than any impropriety. She would not need to lie. She would not need to invent scandal. She would simply let herself be seen. A single kiss could free her life. The idea terrified her, but the alternative terrified her more. She remembered the pond, his voice, the heat in her cheeks, the dizzy feeling in her stomach. If she married him, what then? Would she always be flustered, always off balance, always undone in his presence? Number. She could not bear a lifetime of feeling so seen. Her mother finally left the room in a whirl of silk and perfume. Euphemia remained sitting on the edge of the bed, hands trembling slightly. This was madness. Absolute madness, but she had never been brave in her life, never bold, never reckless. And yet, something inside her, something desperate and quiet and aching, whispered, "Do it before you lose yourself completely." A kiss. One kiss. She exhaled shakily. Tomorrow night, she would ruin herself. It was the only way to escape the Duke of St. John. Though a part of her, a small foolish part lodged deep in her chest, wondered whether fate had already sealed something she could not stop. She pushed that thought away and whispered, "I will not marry a man who unsettles me so." But the truth, the one she did not dare admit, was this. She did not fear marriage. She feared what she felt in his presence. The Dorcas carriage rolled to a stop outside the St. John estate. Lanterns glowing against the marble steps, music drifting out into the crisp evening air. Euphemia felt her pulse flutter beneath her mask, a delicate gold filigree creation that covered half her face. It made her feel disguised, invisible, and dangerously capable of making a mistake on purpose. Her mother fussed over her gown. "Stand tall, darling. Tonight will change everything." If only she knew. Euphemia stepped inside the ballroom, her breath catching. Hundreds of candles glowed, chandeliers shimmered, and masked guests danced beneath garlands of winter roses. Music swelled through the air, warm and dizzying. She swallowed hard, her heart beating too loudly. A kiss, just one. One reckless act to ruin her engagement. Her palms were sweating, her throat felt tight. The plan suddenly seemed impossible. But then she remembered the pond, the teasing voice, the smile, the humiliation, the command to run, and the engagement she never wanted. Her resolve hardened. Masked figures drifted past her in swirling silks and dark coats. Anyone could be anyone tonight. She only needed to find a man alone, preferably in a shadowed corner. And her breath stopped. A man stood near the edge of the ballroom, tall, broad-shouldered, masked in midnight black. He wasn't dancing. He wasn't speaking. He was simply watching the room with quiet command. Something inside her tugged violently. Not desire, not curiosity, something stranger, something she couldn't name. She forced herself toward him before she lost her nerve. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. He turned slightly as she approached, as if sensing her before she spoke. "Excuse me," she whispered, voice trembling. He tilted his head but did not step away. Euphemia's breath shook. Now or never. She reached for his coat, hands shaking, and pulled him into the shadowed alcove beside the column. He didn't resist. He followed her as though he'd been waiting. Her pulse was wild. "I'm sorry," she whispered, though she wasn't sure she was. "I just need to do something terribly foolish." He stood close enough that she felt his warmth through her gown. His voice was low, velvet dark behind the mask. "Do you, now?" Her knees wobbled. She didn't think. She couldn't. She rose onto her toes, grabbed the lapels of his coat, and kissed him. It was supposed to be quick. A scandal, nothing more. Just lips touching lips long enough for ruin. But the moment her mouth pressed to his, she felt something electric run through her, like her ribs opened and the world tilted. His breath hitched sharply. Surprise, then something deeper, something hungry. He tried and failed to swallow. He kissed her back. Not wildly, not possessively, but with control so intense it made her tremble. Her fingers curled into his coat. A soft sound escaped her throat. She hated it, but she couldn't stop it. His hand hovered near her waist but didn't touch, as if he were restraining every instinct in his body. Heat, breath, trembling hearts. It all folded into one impossible moment. She pulled away first, gasping softly, overwhelmed, terrified by what she'd just done. She had done it. She had kissed a stranger. She had ruined herself. The Duke would never marry her now. She took a shaky step back, ready to run, always running, when the man reached up and slowly removed his mask. Her world collapsed. Moonlight spilled across sharp cheekbones, intense eyes, a mouth she recognized even though she had only seen it curve into a pond-soaked smirk. It was him. The Duke, the man in the water. The stranger she'd sworn never to marry. The man she had just kissed. He watched her with an expression she didn't understand. Stunned, breathless, shaken to his core. "My lady," he murmured, voice low and devastating. "I told you. Your first kiss would be mine." Euphemia's breath broke. No, this cannot." She stumbled backward, horror flooding her veins. He stepped forward just once, as if his body moved before his mind did. "Euphemia!" She fled. Before he could finish her name, before he could touch her, before he could say anything else that might shatter her further, she disappeared into the crowd of masks and music and candlelight. Behind her, the Duke stood utterly still, staring after the woman who had just undone every piece of restraint he had left. And for the first time since inheriting his title, he whispered to himself, "God help me." Because now he wanted her more than he had any right to. Euphemia did not sleep. She lay awake long after the masquerade ended, her breath still uneven, her lips still tingling with a memory she desperately wished she could erase. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw it again, his mask falling away. His face revealed. The Duke, the man she tried to escape, the man she had kissed. She pressed her palms into her eyes until stars danced behind her lids. What had she done? What had she ruined? Her entire plan had collapsed in one moment of foolish desperation. And worst of all, she could still feel the way he kissed her back. Morning came with cruel efficiency. Her mother burst into her room before the sun had fully risen, humming with delight and shaking a list of guests in her hand. "The Duke is coming for tea," Verena said breathlessly. Euphemia nearly fell out of bed. "What?" "Yes, darling. He simply must speak with your father this morning. Oh, Euphemia, he must be absolutely taken with you. You had an glow about you last night." Glow. If by glow she meant humiliation, panic, and the lingering echo of a kiss that should never have happened. Euphemia forced herself up, clutching the bedpost until her dizziness steadied. "He cannot come," she whispered. "Not today." "Nonsense. This is wonderful. He must want to discuss arrangements. Oh, darling, imagine, Duchess." Euphemia's stomach twisted so painfully she felt ill. Her mother flitted away, unaware of the internal devastation she left behind. Euphemia dressed slowly, hands shaking the entire time. She chose a modest gown, hoping to feel smaller, invisible, forgettable. But her reflection betrayed her. Eyes too bright, lips too bruised-looking, pulse fluttering in her throat. She looked like a woman who had kissed someone she shouldn't have. When the inevitable knock came downstairs, her breath died completely. Footsteps. Voices, her father greeting someone with perfect politeness. A deeper voice responding, smooth, composed, controlled. His voice. Euphemia gripped the banister until her knuckles went white. Her father called up the stairs, "Euphemia, my dear." No escape. Fate had her by the throat. She descended the steps slowly, her heart pounding so loudly she could barely hear anything else. Her slipper touched the last stair, and she lifted her gaze. The Duke of St. John stood in her family's drawing room. Fully clothed, perfectly composed. Mask gone. Expression unreadable. But when his eyes found hers, when his breath caught just slightly, when something flickered across his face like recognition sharpened by memory, she knew he was remembering the kiss. Her father spoke proudly. "Your Grace, may I present my daughter, Euphemia Dorcas?" The Duke bowed. A perfect, respectful bow. "Lady Euphemia," he said softly. "A pleasure to see you again." She nearly choked on air. "Again." Her father smiled, oblivious. Summer Town Hall, was it not? Or was it the Winter Gala? Euphemia blurted, "It was neither." The Duke's eyes warmed just slightly, a ghost of a smile threatening his composure. "No," he agreed, voice low enough only she could hear. "It was neither." Sweet pain arrowed through her chest. She curtsied, though she nearly stumbled in the process. Her father clapped his hands together. "Well, let us speak of arrangements. There is much to prepare." Arrangement, marriage, a future she could no longer sabotage. Euphemia's breath grew shallow again. She moved to sit, but the Duke gently pulled out her chair for her. Not showy, not smug, but with an attention so quietly focused on her that it made her pulse stutter. Her father spoke of estates. Her mother spoke of gowns. The Duke spoke of timelines. But Euphemia heard nothing. All she felt was the weight of his gaze. Steady, unreadable, and unbearably aware. Once, when her father turned his back to pour tea, the Duke leaned in by the smallest fraction. "You ran from me," he murmured. She stiffened. "You should not have removed your mask." "Should I have kept it on?" he said softly. "After you kissed me like that?" Her breath caught. "Do not speak of it," she whispered. A beat passed, charged, breathless. Before he answered, "As you wish, my lady." But the way he looked at her, the way his eyes lingered on her mouth just a moment too long, told her he would not forget. Not now, not years from now. And the sweet pain of that truth ached all the way through her. Her father cleared his throat. "Euphemia, it is time you and His Grace take a turn in the garden. It is proper for engaged couples to become acquainted." Engaged. The word hit her like a blow. She rose on unsteady legs. The Duke offered his arm, and when she had no choice but to take it, her hand trembled in his. And he felt it. His voice lowered once more. "There is something you must understand, Lady Euphemia." She did not look at him. "What?" "You kissed a stranger," he said softly. "But I am no stranger now." Her heart stopped completely. And the story, their story, was no longer something she could erase. Euphemia did not walk beside the Duke so much as drift on trembling legs, the chill of morning clinging to her skin. He offered his arm without pressure, letting her touch be light, so light she could barely feel it. Yet she felt him, all of him, every heartbeat of his silence. The garden stretched wide and elegant, roses still touched with dew, the gravel crunching softly beneath their shoes. He did not look at her. Not directly, but she felt his gaze flick toward her every few breaths, as if making certain she did not flee again. They walked longer than necessary, before he finally spoke. "You fear me?" Her throat tightened. "I fear marriage." "Is that all?" She hesitated. He continued, voice low, more gentle than she expected. "Last night, you did something out of desperation. I frightened you." She felt heat climb her neck. "I was reckless." "No." His tone softened, like a leaf brushing her skin. "You were brave." The word nearly unbalanced her. "Bravery," he continued, "often looks like fear from the outside." "Not in my case," she whispered. "You do not see yourself clearly." She clenched her jaw. "That kiss." He inhaled sharply, as if the memory cost him restraint. "Yes," he murmured. "That kiss." "We will not speak of it again," she said quickly, "if that is your wish." Silence hung between them, warm and stinging. But inside his chest, something ached. That same moment, replaying, her lips trembling against his, the way she'd gripped his coat as if she needed him. He had not slept either. A soft rustle interrupted them. Euphemia looked up to see a woman approaching, gliding like she owned every stone of the walkway. Tall, poised, beautiful in a way that was almost sharp. Lady Isolde Merrow, her mask gone from last night, but her eyes unmistakable. "Your Grace," she said in a voice that could slice fruit. "I was hoping to find you." Euphemia's stomach twisted. Of course. Of course another woman would be seeking him. Why wouldn't she? He was a duke, newly inherited, desirable, commanding. And Isolde belonged to this world in a way Euphemia never had. Dufton inclined his head politely, though his posture stiffened. "Lady Merrow." Isolde's attention flicked to Euphemia with a smile that held no warmth whatsoever. "So this is your bride." "My fiancée," he corrected, tone flattening just slightly. Euphemia tried to curtsy, but she felt suddenly small, painfully aware of the elegant woman before her. Isolde's gaze lowered to examine Euphemia's gown, her hair, her trembling hands. She smiled sweetly. "How quaint." Euphemia's face burned. Dufton's jaw tightened. "Lady Merrow," he said softly, too softly, "I trust you are well." "Perfectly," she replied, stepping closer to him, far too close for propriety. "I heard you left the ball rather early. I searched for you." "I was otherwise occupied," he said. The words struck Euphemia like a dart. Otherwise occupied? With her. With the kiss she wished she could bury under the earth. Isolde's eyes brightened with interest. "Oh, how intriguing. And here I thought you disliked surprises." She leaned in, her voice a low purr. "Some lucky woman must have stolen your attention." Euphemia's breath hitched. Her chest tightened painfully. Dufton's expression remained neutral, but something darkened behind his eyes. Something protective. "That is not a topic for public speculation," he said calmly. Isolde blinked, taken aback. It was not a reprimand, but it might as well have been. Euphemia looked away, swallowing hard. Her heart felt bruised, tender, too exposed. Dufton suddenly shifted his stance, angling his body just slightly in front of hers, blocking Isolde's line of sight. A subtle gesture, but Euphemia felt it, felt shielded, felt seen. "Good day, Lady Merrow," he said, voice final. Isolde's lips parted, surprise flickering across her perfect face, before she gathered herself and smiled tightly. "Another time, Your Grace." She glided away, her perfume lingering like an accusation. Euphemia didn't breathe until she was gone. Dufton turned to her. "You are shaken." "You think very highly of your ability to read me," she whispered. His lips twitched. "Not amusement, something sadder. Only because you try so hard to hide." She looked up sharply, and in that moment his eyes softened. Not with arrogance, not with victory, but with something quiet and unbearably tender. "You need not hide from me," he said. Her breath stuttered. "Why?" she whispered. He held her gaze for a long, aching moment. "Because," he said, "I have no intention of harming what I wish to protect." Sweet pain hit her so hard she nearly stepped backward. She didn't answer. Couldn't. He exhaled slowly, as if fighting some internal war. "I will return tomorrow to speak with your father," he said. "We will finalize arrangements." Her heart twisted. "Already? Only the formalities remain." She swallowed, her voice barely a breath. "Do you truly wish for this engagement?" He looked at her, deeply, openly, as though her question cracked something inside him. "No," he said softly. "I do not wish for an engagement." Her heart dropped. Then he added quietly, "I wish for you." The words hit her like a blow. Gentle, devastating, impossible. She looked away first, unable to withstand the full weight of him. He bowed his head respectfully, then left the garden, the crunch of gravel fading behind him. Euphemia remained perfectly still until he was gone. Only then did she let out a trembling breath, sweet pain blooming through her chest in a way that frightened her. She had kissed the wrong man, or perhaps the right one, and now her heart was no longer listening to her fear. Euphemia barely made it inside before her mother hurried toward her, cheeks flushed with excitement and arms full of fabric swatches. "There you are. Honestly, Euphemia, you vanish more than smoke. Come, come, we must discuss lace. We must decide on colors. Your engagement will be announced publicly in 2 days." 2 days. Euphemia's vision blurred for a moment. Her mother shoved a bolt of ivory silk into her hands. "Hold it up. No, not like that. Higher. Smile. Euphemia, you look as though you're walking to your execution." "I feel," she whispered, "as though I am." Verena tisked loudly. "You are marrying a duke, child, not facing a firing squad." But Euphemia felt trapped inside a world that was shrinking by the minute. Her name plastered onto someone else's future, her body belonging to expectations she had no voice in. Every breath felt unsteady. She escaped to her room under the pretense of needing air, but even that small mercy was stolen from her when a soft knock came. Not her mother's fluttery tapping, not her father's deep 3-beat rhythm. A single, measured, unmistakably confident knock. Euphemia's stomach dropped. When she opened the door, a tall older woman stood there. Silver hair perfectly pinned, posture sharp as a blade, dark gown severe and dignified. Octavia St. John, the Duke's mother. Euphemia froze, then dipped into a shaky curtsy. "Your Grace." Octavia's expression did not soften, not even a fraction. She looked Euphemia over as though assessing whether a crack in the girl's spine might break the future of their name. "So," Octavia said, stepping inside without invitation, "this is the young woman my son has chosen." Chosen. The word burned. He hadn't chosen her. Fate had shoved them together like two mismatched bookends. Octavia's gaze drifted to Euphemia's ungloved hands, her simple gown, her trembling breath. "Your family is respectable," she said, though not distinguished. Euphemia lowered her eyes. "I understand, Your Grace." "I do not expect brilliance from you," Octavia continued, "but I expect obedience. A duchess is a crown worn with silence and dignity. If my son is to carry the St. John name with strength, you must not falter." The sweet pain in Euphemia's chest twisted into something sharper. "I will do my best," she whispered. "Your best is a starting point," Octavia replied. "The role requires more." Just then, the faint scrape of a shoe sounded from the doorway. Both women turned. Dufton stood there, his eyes fixed not on Euphemia, but on his mother, with a calmness that felt dangerously close to warning. "Mother," he said, "may I ask why you speak to my fiancé alone?" Octavia did not flinch. A mother must ensure her son's future. And yet, he said quietly. You do not instruct my future. You observe it. Something unspoken passed between them. A long-standing battle of wills neither seemed willing to lose. Euphemia felt suddenly exposed, like a deer caught between two hunters aiming past each other. Dufton's gaze shifted to her. Just one look, but it was enough to send her breath scattering. Lady Euphemia, he said gently, I wish to see if you were well after our walk. Octavia blinked, slowly, calculating. She had not expected that tone, that softness. Euphemia tried to speak, but her throat tightened. He had said he wished for her, not a marriage arrangement. He had shielded her from Isolde. He had spoken to her father with quiet protectiveness. Her heart fluttered, traitorous and frightened. I am well, she whispered. Dufton stepped inside, closing the door behind him, his presence filling the room. Octavia stepped back but did not leave. I will give you two a moment, she said stiffly, though I advise you not to indulge in sentiment. It leads nowhere productive. She exited with the cold grace of winter wind. Euphemia and the Duke were alone. Her pulse thundered in her ears. Dufton exhaled slowly, as though his mother had exhausted him in 2 sentences. I apologize for her manner. You need not, Euphemia whispered. She is honest. She is invasive. He said it so simply that she almost laughed. Almost. He moved closer, not touching her, but near enough that she felt warmth through the air. You look troubled, he murmured. I am, she admitted, voice barely audible. Tell me what weighs on you. She shook her head. You would not want to hear it. I do, he said softly, even if it is unkind. Her heart twisted. She did not want to be vulnerable. She did not want him. But sweet pain rose in her chest, hot, trembling, impossible to hide. I never wanted this marriage, she whispered, not because of you, but because I feared being swallowed by a world I do not understand. He did not move. He did not speak. He simply listened, the way a man listens when the truth matters more than his pride. And after last night, she swallowed, I do not know how to face you. His expression shifted. Not amusement, not arrogance, but something deeper, something reverent. Euphemia, he said quietly, facing me is not a battle you are required to win. I do not know how to be your equal, she whispered. You already are. Her breath trembled, and for a moment she wished he would step closer, touch her, reassure her with more than words. But he stayed exactly where he was, locked in restraint. His voice lowered to a softness that cut straight into her ribs. You do not have to love me yet, he murmured. You only have to let me be gentle with you until you do. Her knees weakened. Sweet pain flooded through her. She turned away before he saw her eyes shine with tears she didn't understand. He stepped back, giving her space, honoring her fear, protecting her dignity. I will see you tomorrow, he said softly. And when he left, closing the door quietly behind him, Euphemia stood alone in her room, hands trembling, heart aching, whispering only one thought she could not stop. I do not want to want him. But she did. Oh, she did. Preparations for the engagement ball swallowed the Dorcas household whole. Servants rushed through corridors, florists filled rooms with too many roses, and Euphemia floated through it all like a spirit displaced from her own life. She tried to avoid thinking of him. She failed, every time. But the real blow came when she entered the St. John estate 2 days later for the formal signing of engagement documents. She walked into the grand foyer with her mother chattering beside her, and froze. Lady Isolde Merrow stood near the staircase. Too close, far too close. Her hand rested on Dufton's sleeve, fingers lightly brushing the fine fabric as she laughed softly at something he had said. Euphemia's chest tightened so sharply she almost reached for the wall. He hadn't seen her yet. Isolde tilted her head up at him, eyes warm in a way Euphemia had never seen. Your Grace, Surely you can't claim you don't enjoy a bit of admiration. Dufton's jaw flexed in a way only someone watching closely would catch. Admiration is not always desirable, Lady Marrow. Oh, but from me it should be, she said, stepping even closer. We've known each other longer than... He cut her a look so cold the air shifted. Do not finish that sentence. Isolde faltered, but not enough. Her fingers lingered on his arm just a second longer than polite. That was what did it. Something hot and painful surged through Euphemia's body. Jealousy, sharp, humiliating, unfamiliar, rose like a wound tearing open. Her mother nudged her forward, oblivious. Don't stand there like a statue, Euphemia. Smile. But she couldn't. Not when Isolde's hand was still on him. Not when the sick realization bloomed inside her. She cared. She cared far too much. Dufton finally turned. And the moment he saw Euphemia, his entire posture shifted. Subtle, but undeniable. His shoulders straightened. His eyes warmed. His expression softened with something like relief. Isolde followed his gaze and smiled tightly. Ah, the bride. Euphemia forced herself to curtsy, though her stomach churned. Dufton stepped toward her immediately. Lady Euphemia. Isolde's hand dropped from his sleeve. He reached her in 3 strides, stopping closer than propriety allowed. Close enough that she felt the warmth of him, smelled faint traces of cedar and ink. You look pale, he murmured. Are you unwell? Number. Yes. Everything hurt and nothing hurt. I'm fine, she whispered. You are not, he said softly. His concern only made the ache worse. Her mother's delighted voice cut in. Your Grace, Euphemia is simply overwhelmed. Imagine, a duchess soon. Overwhelmed was an understatement. Then Octavia swept into the room like a storm front draped in jewels. Dufton, she said sharply, the solicitor awaits. We must discuss the matter of heirs. Euphemia felt the edges of her heartbeat collapse. Heirs. God. They weren't even married, and already her body was being counted and measured like livestock. Dufton stiffened, clearly irritated. Mother, this is neither the time nor place. It is precisely the time, Octavia replied coolly. Your engagement is official as of today. The matter of continuation cannot wait. Euphemia's throat tightened painfully. Heirs, expectations, pressure, a life she wasn't sure she wanted. With a man she wanted too much. Dufton sensed her panic. He always sensed her and stepped slightly in front of her, shielding her from Octavia's line of sight, just as he had with Isolde. Euphemia, he said quietly, you need not listen to this. But she had already heard enough. Her mother chimed in cheerfully. Oh, Euphemia will give strong boys, I'm sure of it. Mother, Euphemia said sharply, surprising herself. Please stop. Everyone fell silent. Dufton's gaze snapped to her. Not offended, not confused, but proud. Isolde raised a brow, amused. A bit of fire in her after all. Euphemia's cheeks flamed. She wanted to run, hide, breathe, something. Dufton leaned closer, voice lowered for her alone. I will not allow them to overwhelm you. But they will, she whispered, voice shaking. It is already happening. He exhaled softly, something pained flickering in his eyes. Then tell me what you need. Her breath trembled. I don't know how to navigate this world. Then you will learn, he said. With me. She looked up at him. Really looked at him, and her chest ached so deeply she could barely stand. I do not want to be swallowed by your life, she whispered. His voice tightened. I will not let it swallow you. A beat of silence stretched, long enough for Isolde to stiffen, Octavia to narrow her eyes, and Euphemia's heart to break a little from wanting something she shouldn't want. He stepped back only when her father arrived, calling everyone forward for the signing. As Euphemia moved toward the table, her hand brushed Dufton's, not intentionally, barely a graze, but it sent heat up her arm so quickly she almost gasped. He glanced down at their almost touch, and his restraint cracked, just slightly, just enough for her to see it. Sweet pain twisted through her entire body. She wanted him. She did not want this life. She wanted to run. She wanted him to catch her. She wanted everything and nothing, and the signing pen waited. Euphemia had never seen her home so full. Audiences arrived, conversations rose and fell in a whirl of silk and polished shoes, and everyone seemed to know exactly what to say, except her. The engagement parchment lay on the drawing-room table, its ink drying like a seal over her future. She stood beside her father as the Duke signed it with steady, elegant script. His mother watched with the cool satisfaction of someone who believed she had shaped fate itself. Euphemia's hand trembled when she reached for the quill. The Duke noticed. Of course he did. He didn't touch her. He never touched without need. But his gaze held her still. "You may breathe, Lady Euphemia," he murmured. She did. Barely. She signed. Her parents applauded softly. Octavia nodded once. Isolde's eyes narrowed like a blade. Euphemia felt none of it. She felt only him watching her, not with triumph, but with something like concern, like he understood the weight she now carried, even if he couldn't lift it from her. After the signing, everyone dispersed for refreshments. Euphemia slipped away to the veranda for air, pressing her palms to the cool stone railing. She breathed in slowly. "You will not be unhappy," her father had said. But she didn't know how to be anything at all. Footsteps approached behind her. Measured, familiar. "May I join you?" Her breath faltered. "It is your house. I cannot forbid you." He stepped beside her, but kept a respectable distance, as he always did. She had begun to notice that about him. His restraint, his carefulness, his habit of giving her space even when he wanted none. "You dislike crowds," he said, not asking, but knowing. "Yes, I do as well." He rested his hands on the railing, but far from hers. She appreciated that, resented it, needed it. "I thought a duke would enjoy being admired," she said quietly. An almost smile touched his mouth. "Admiration I did not earn is a burden, not a gift." She hesitated. "You earned quite a bit last night." He turned his head sharply. Not offended, not smug, but startled that she dared hint at the kiss. "This is not the place to revisit that moment," he said softly. "I know." Her cheeks heated. "I only meant—" His voice softened further. "Euphemia." He rarely used her name. It unsettled her more than any kiss could have. "You do not have to explain anything to me," he said. "You acted out of fear. I understand fear more than you know." Her eyes flickered up at him. "What could you possibly fear?" He paused, long enough that she turned fully toward him. "My father was ill for many months," he said quietly. "I inherited this title before I was ready. A great many people now depend on decisions I do not yet trust myself to make." Her breath stilled. Dufton St. John was not untouchable stone. He was a man carrying responsibility heavy enough to crush anyone. She softened. "I did not know." "You were not meant to," he replied. "Burden is not a conversation topic for fate. And yet you say it to me." "Because," he murmured, "you are the only person I've spoken to in months who did not treat me like a crown." Sweet pain bloomed through her chest. "I do not treat you like anything," she whispered. "I do not know how to be around a duke." "Then be yourself." "I don't know who that is anymore." He inhaled slowly. "Then let us find out together." Before she could respond, the veranda door opened. Lady Isolde stepped out, her expression dripping with false concern. "Oh, forgive me," she said sweetly. "I didn't mean to interrupt, whatever this is." Euphemia stiffened. Dufton did not even look at Isolde. "You did not interrupt." But Isolde glided forward anyway, brushing her gloved hand over the Duke's forearm. A gesture Euphemia felt like a stab. "Your Grace," Isolde purred, "your mother requests you for a moment." Something about timelines. Euphemia's stomach twisted. Timelines. Heirs. Expectations. Dufton exhaled through his nose. Irritation, thin but controlled. He looked to Euphemia first. Always her first. "Will you be all right?" he asked quietly. "Yes," she lied. His brows pulled together, not believing her, but respecting her choice. "I will return," he said, voice low. Then he followed Isolde inside. He did not offer his arm. He did not slow his pace for her, and yet Euphemia still felt the ache of jealousy curling under her ribs. She stood alone on the veranda, fists pressed to the railing. She had signed the papers. She would marry him, she would live in his world, and every second she spent near him made her heart more tender, more exposed, more breakable. She whispered to the open air. I did not want to care for him, but she did. More than she could admit, more than she could hide from herself. Inside, she heard Octavia's voice rising, strict, demanding, and Dufton's quiet replies, trying to keep the peace. He would be expected to consummate the marriage quickly, produce an heir, fulfill duty. Her breath faltered. She wasn't ready. She wasn't prepared. She wasn't sure she could even survive the wedding night without dissolving into panic. She pressed a trembling hand to her chest. "No," she whispered. "Not yet." But she also knew with a terrifying, trembling certainty that if he touched her with the same gentleness he used when he spoke to her, she might not resist at all. Euphemia had never felt so many eyes on her. The church glowed with candlelight, gold against stone, as if the building itself were holding its breath. Soft music drifted under the murmurs of guests. Every pew was filled, every head turned as she walked down the aisle on her father's arm. But she saw only one thing. Him. Dufton St. John stood waiting at the altar, dressed in a dark, perfectly tailored coat. His posture composed, his expression unreadable except for one thing. The way his eyes softened when he saw her. Just a fraction. Just enough for her knees to weaken. She expected arrogance. She expected cool formality. But he looked at her as though she was something he wasn't sure he deserved, yet could not bear to lose. Her father placed her hand in his. Dufton's fingers closed around hers gently, as though afraid she might break. "You look—" He stopped, breath catching. He tried again. "Euphemia, you look like peace." Her heart fluttered so sharply she nearly forgot to breathe. The vows felt dreamlike, her voice quiet, trembling, his steady and low. When the rings were exchanged, his thumb brushed her knuckle in a brief, grounding touch. Not possessive, not demanding, just warm. And when he kissed her cheek, a proper, soft, restrained gesture. Her breath caught because she felt the tremor he tried to hide. The Duke was nervous, because of her. Later, at the reception, Euphemia felt herself drifting. Guests toasted, musicians played, Octavia watched with cold approval, Isolde with sharp envy. But whenever Euphemia looked toward Dufton, he was already looking at her. Not a single moment passed without him being aware of her presence. Not one. When the time came to depart, rain had begun to fall. Soft, steady, washing the world in silver. Their carriage rattled through the countryside toward his estate. Silence thickened between them, but not uncomfortable, just full, heavy with everything neither dared say yet. When they entered their bed-chamber, she felt her breath tangle. The room was warm, lit by low candlelight, rain tapping against the windows like a heartbeat. Dufton turned to her, closing the door quietly behind them. "You're safe," he said first. It surprised her how much she needed those words. She nodded, though her hands felt cold. He stepped closer, slow, gentle, and lifted her veil. His fingertips didn't touch her skin, but the closeness made her heart race. His voice lowered. "I will not rush you." Her breath trembled. "It is our wedding night." "It is," he agreed softly. "But you don't want—" He closed the distance just enough to silence her doubt. "Euphemia," he whispered, "I have wanted many things in my life. None have frightened me more than wanting you." Her lips parted. Not from fear, but from something dangerously close to surrender. He inhaled slowly, as though keeping himself restrained took effort. "I will not take anything you cannot give freely." She felt her chest ache. Sweet, painful, beautiful. "No one expects—" "I am not no one," he said quietly. "I am your husband, and my want is not greater than your comfort." Her eyes burned. He touched her hand, barely. The faintest brush of skin against skin. The warmth of it moved straight through her body. "I will sleep beside you tonight," he murmured. "But I will not touch you unless you ask." Ask. The word melted through her like honey. He helped her out of the heavy gown without ever lingering where he shouldn't. When she stood in her shift, trembling but unashamed, he looked away to give her dignity. That, more than anything, broke something inside her. He wanted her. He desired her. She could feel it in the way his breath tightened, in how his jaw clenched, in the slight tremor of restraint in his hands. And yet he held himself back. For her. They lay on the bed, fully under the covers. He kept a careful space between them, but the room felt too small for the silence, too warm for the rain tapping the windows, too charged for the distance. At one point, she whispered, "Are you awake?" "Yes." His voice was low, velvet in the dark. "Why aren't you sleeping?" A soft, almost broken exhale. "Because you are beside me." Her pulse quickened. "Is that troubling?" "No." A pause. "It is undoing me." Sweet pain swelled in her chest, far too much for one night. She turned under the covers, slowly, nervously, and found his eyes in the dim light. "Dufton?" He swallowed. "Yes." "Thank you," she whispered, "for being gentle with me." His eyes softened. Not the way a man softens for beauty or desire, but the way he softens for something sacred. He reached for her hand under the blankets, threading his fingers through hers. Carefully, reverently. "Good night, my lady," he said, voice trembling just once. She closed her eyes, and for the first time since meeting him, she didn't feel trapped. She felt safe, wanted, cherished, protected, loved in a way she didn't yet understand. But she would. Oh, she would. And outside, the rain kept falling. Soft, steady, patient, just like him. The days after their wedding passed quietly. Too quietly. Euphemia behaved with polite calm, always composed, always proper, always careful. She thanked him for small things. She walked beside him in the gardens. She sat at breakfast with folded hands and lowered lashes. And Dufton was losing his mind. Not because she was distant, not because she was cold, but because she was trying so hard not to disturb him. She was behaving like a duchess, not a wife, like someone fulfilling a role, not living in a home. And he felt it every time she left a room before he could say her name, every time she hid her trembling with a smile, every time she pulled her hand away a second too soon. He noticed everything. One afternoon, Isolde arrived at the estate under the pretense of checking on Euphemia. Euphemia was in the drawing room, pouring tea when Isolde leaned close, too close, brushing her hair back with a pitying sigh. "My dear," Isolde murmured, "you must understand. A man like his grace tires quickly of quiet wives. Soon enough he will seek—" The cup in Euphemia's hand rattled. And Dufton entered the room. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't storm. He didn't glare. He simply said, in a tone so calm it silenced the entire world, "Lady Isolde, remove your hand from my wife." Isolde froze. Euphemia blinked, startled. Dufton didn't look at Isolde again. He walked straight to Euphemia, slowly, deliberately, positioning himself at her side in the way a soldier forms a shield. "Are you all right?" he asked her softly. She nodded, but her lashes fluttered with embarrassment. Isolde gasped. "Dufton, I was only—" "You were uninvited," he replied. "This is my home. My wife's comfort matters here. Yours does not." The words landed like velvet-covered steel. Euphemia's lips parted, not in fear, but in something painfully close to awe. Isolde left flustered, humiliated. When the door closed, silence settled like dust. Euphemia whispered, "You didn't have to defend me." He turned to her fully then, and the look in his eyes made her breath catch. "I will always defend you." She looked away quickly, but it was nothing. "Nothing?" His voice deepened, not loud, but raw. "Euphemia, when someone distresses you, it is not nothing." She swallowed. "I don't want to be a burden." "A burden?" The word punched the breath out of him. He stepped closer, too close, but not touching her. "You think your presence burdens me." She tried to smile, but it wavered. "I know I'm not what you expected in a duchess." He breathed in sharply. There it was, the crack. Not anger, not frustration, hurt, real, quiet, devastating hurt. "Euphemia," he said, voice thickening. "Every day I wake up and hope that you will look at me the way you looked at me in the garden that first morning." Her heart stumbled. "I don't remember how I looked at you." "I do." His voice trembled. He almost never let his voice tremble. "You looked curious, unafraid, yourself." She tightened her grip on her skirts. "I'm trying." "That is the problem." He finally let the emotion bleed through. "You are trying so hard to be what you think I want that you refuse to be what I truly want." The room blurred around her. "What do you want?" she whispered. He closed his eyes, exhaling like the truth physically hurt him. "You," the words shattered between them. "Not your title, not your obedience, not your poise. You." He opened his eyes again, and for the first time since she met him, he looked utterly unguarded. "I want the woman who storms away from pawns," he said softly. "The woman who argues back. The woman who laughs softly when she thinks no one hears. The woman who hides her fear, but not her heart." Her breath shook. He stepped closer, just enough that she felt the warmth of him, rain-soft and dangerous. "You are my wife," he whispered, "but I don't want a duchess beside me. I want you, your softness, your worry, your foolish courage, your eyes when you think I'm not looking." Her tears burned hot. "And if you think," he finished, quieter now, "that any part of you is a burden, then it is I who has failed. Not you." A tear slipped down her cheek. He reached up, slowly, asking permission with his eyes, and brushed it away with his thumb. "Euphemia," he said, voice breaking, "tell me what I'm doing wrong." She shook her head, choking on breath. You're not doing anything wrong." "Then why won't you come close?" he asked, almost hoarse. "Because if I do," she thought, "I won't recover from you." But she couldn't say it. So he stepped back, just one step, but it felt like a wound. He bowed his head slightly. "When you are ready," he said, voice steadying, "I will be here." Then he left the drawing room. And for the first time, Euphemia felt the full weight of the quiet, aching truth. He was falling in love with her, and she had no idea how to survive it. It rained that night. Not a storm, just a steady, gentle fall that softened the world to silver, as though even the sky wished to quiet itself for what was coming. Euphemia could not sleep. Dufton's words from earlier kept echoing through her like soft thunder. "Why won't you come close? You're not a burden. I want you." She had never been wanted like that. Not for position or obedience or beauty, but for the way she felt in someone's presence. Her chest ached with a sweetness she didn't know how to carry. Finally, she rose from the bed, The chamber was dim, lit only by a single candle. The rain tapped lightly on the windows, a sound as rhythmic as a heartbeat. Dufton stood at the balcony doors, his back to her, shirt sleeves rolled, hands braced on the railing as he watched the rain fall. His hair was slightly damp from the cool air drifting in. He looked undone. Not angry, not tense, just quietly unraveling, as if loving her softly had worn him thin. She approached without thinking. Her bare feet made no sound on the rug, but he felt her before she reached him. "Euphemia," he said, voice low, almost relieved. "You should be resting." "I can't." Her voice trembled. He turned. The look on his face nearly broke her. Surprise, hope, fear, longing. He stepped back from the doors and closed them gently, shutting out the rain so he could hear her properly. "What troubles you?" he asked softly. "You," she whispered. He froze. She swallowed, breath shaking. "I keep thinking about what you said. About wanting me, not a duchess, not a role. Me." He stayed perfectly still, afraid that one movement would frighten her away. Euphemia stepped closer, cautiously, timidly, until she was standing in front of him, rain-soft light resting on her cheeks. "Dufton," she breathed, "I don't know how to be what you need." His expression shattered, just a little. "You already are." Her lips trembled. "Then why does it hurt so much?" He exhaled deeply, slowly, as if he'd been holding breath for days. "Because," he said, eyes dark and gentle, "you're beginning to love me. And that is always a painful thing before it becomes a beautiful one." A tear slid down her face. Dufton reached out, slowly, giving her every chance to step away, and touched her cheek with the back of his fingers. She didn't pull away. He breathed out a sound he'd been holding for months. "Euphemia, may I come closer?" Her answer was not spoken. She stepped into him. His breath broke, actually broke, as his arms came around her, not pulling, not claiming, just holding her as if she were something fragile and precious. The rain continued quietly outside, the only witness. Euphemia pressed her forehead to his chest. She felt his heartbeat. Fast, strong, terrified. "I'm scared," she whispered. He lowered his lips to her hair. "So am I," he murmured. "I have never loved gently until you." She lifted her gaze. Something in his expression, longing, restraint, devotion, unlocked something deep inside her. Her hands rose, hesitant, trembling, and touched his face. He closed his eyes as if the contact physically overwhelmed him. "Dufton," she whispered, "kiss me." He opened his eyes, searching her face for doubt. There was none. He kissed her, not hungrily, not urgently, but reverently, like a man who had waited his entire life for one tender moment, and finally received it. The world blurred around them, the rain, the candlelight, the warmth of his hands on her waist, her fingers tangling softly in his hair. All gentle, all slow, all filled with trembling devotion. When they finally found the bed, it was with patience, with breathless care, with months of longing unspoken but deeply felt. Nothing rushed, nothing forced, nothing crude, just two souls letting their walls fall in the quiet rhythm of the rain. When it was over, when the world felt softer, quieter, impossibly warm, Euphemia lay against his chest, breath still unsteady, heart still learning how to beat in this new tenderness. Dufton held her as though something sacred had happened, as though he was afraid to move and lose the feeling. His thumb traced slow circles on her shoulder. Her hand rested against his heartbeat. And then, when everything was still, she lifted her head, looked at him with tear-bright eyes, and whispered the words that would stay with him for the rest of his life. "I love how you love me." He closed his eyes. A soft, broken sound escaped him, something between a laugh and a prayer, and he kissed her again, slow and grateful and overwhelmed. Outside, the rain softened, and from somewhere distant in the estate, a soft melody began to drift, the first notes of their song.
I saw you once when the world was quiet, snow in the air and my heart behind it. I loved you then, though I couldn't speak, a truth so bright it made me weak.
I held my breath so you wouldn't see how your presence hardly carried me. I walked away, though I longed to stay, afraid my soul would give me away.
You never asked, but I still heard you, a silent longing pulling me toward you.
Your careful distance, your trembling hands reached for my heart
in their quiet command.
Love doesn't shout, it moves like snow, soft and patient and somehow knows.
I felt your fear, your hope, your ache, a love so gentle it hurt to take. I love how you love me,
though you hide it like winter under ice.
I love how you love me,
soft as a breath, steady and precise.
I love how you love me,
in the long, in the wait, in the quiet, unseen.
your love is the fire,
burning slow, burning clean, burning deep, where the world can't intervene.
I made mistakes with the love I carried, hid my heart from the one I cherished. I feared its strength, I feared its truth, I feared I wasn't enough for you.
But every distance I tried to keep only made the longing cut more deep. And every silence I meant as shield became a truth I could not conceal.
You held so much you never said, a storm of yearning inside your chest.
But I felt it all
In your quiet devotion, your tender restraint, your guarded emotion.
Your love was gentle, your love was brave, the kind that shatters, the kind that saves, a steadfast vow the soul repeats, a quiet truth beneath the beats.
I love how you love me,
when your fear dimmed its glow.
I love how you love me.
With a heart you never let fully show.
I love how you love me.
Through the ache, through the doubt, through the spaces between.
Your love is my anchor.
Soft and mighty, quiet yet fiercely seen.
If loving you breaks me, I still won't bend. If loving you binds me, I won't defend.
If love is a vow the soul won't undo,
then every breath leads me back to you.
your love is my winter, my breath, my flame, my quiet call in your quiet name,
Where longing softens and truth runs deep, where hearts awaken from ancient sleep. I love how you love me.
with the storm outside and the candles gleam.
I